everyone, I welcome you all to this module of security. Today I'll be talking about some attacks which are quite specific to Internet of Things. We have been discussing a lot about that IoT is vulnerable and susceptible to various type of attacks on various surfaces like perception layer or network layer or application layer. So, because of open nature, open architecture of IoT and lack of standardization of Internet of Things globally, moreover, there are thousands of manufacturers which are providing different IoT devices, different things which account for IoT devices like network. Then there are separate uh, players who produce these network devices, routers and hubs, then cellular systems, BTS, then sensing layer. If we talk about, there are millions of sensors available by thousands of vendors. Same ways on the application layer, there are various type of things available which at some point or the other are the entity in Internet of Things. And we are very clear about the fact that if we capture any one entity of on any of the layers, we have the potential of intruding into the network and do the malicious activities. So basically we discussed that we can capture what you call as we can attack or do attack the Internet of Things platform either at the device level or at the network level or at the application layer. So device, they can primarily they are primary prey for the physical attacks, and they are the first means by where the attacker can intrude. And part of devices where the vulnerability can come from are its memory, and specifically if it is software kind of attack, then firmware, then obviously physical damage, physical stealing, web interface, and then network security also can be used to intrude the network. Then attackers, they at times also take advantage of unsecure default settings and outdated passwords and unsecure update mechanisms which sensor takes to mark their presence in the network. Then second one is network. Now communication channel, there are multiple communication channels which are available for communication between the entities and Internet of Things. So attack, they can originate from the channel that connects the IoT components or with the multiple channels together. So protocols used in IoT systems can have security issues that can affect the entire system. And at the network level, attacks like eavesdropping are very common, and IoT systems are also vulnerable or susceptible to known network attacks such as DOS is very common, then DDoS is very common, spoofing is there. Then comes application layer. So application layer, there is a lot of mess that can be created by software, firmwares, malwares. So vulnerabilities in web applications are there. There are, yesterday or day before yesterday we were talking that around 20% of the applications do not have secure web plugins. So vulnerabilities in web applications, then related softwares for Internet of Devices can lead to entire network compromised. Web application can potentially, let's say for example, be can be exploited to steal the users details, personal details like passwords and push uh, malicious firmware update into a device, which at the end of the day can be used to create uh, various attack vectors. So we are interested in looking to some of the attacks which are quite common, like eavesdropping is nothing, we discussed it before also. It is something like A and B are talking and someone C is able to crack the communication from the network layer and listen to their conversation. That is eavesdropping. Then man in middle is again a type of eavesdropping. It is like C places his entity inside the network such that the communication which is from A to B is first received by the C, and then C transmits the information to the B, and when B replies, then C receives it, and then C forwards it to A. Whereas in eavesdropping, C has only right to listen to the conversation. He cannot manipulate it. But in man-in-the-middle attack, as the hacker's device receives the communications for both the entities and forwarded, like suppose A has some confidential information to be transmitted. Let's say um, A have some confidential information to be transmitted to B. So he sends B a message ki share your uh, personal key to me. B sends him the personal key. The personal key is asked, it is given to him. Then A sends him message to B, encrypted message to B, and B decodes the message using his private key. But the scenario we are talking about is A, whatever it sends goes to C and C sends to B. So when A asks B to share his private key, it's like that कि A उससे कहे कि अपना गूगल पे का नंबर मुझे भेज, send me your UPI ID. So B tells to A that my UPI ID is, let's say, X at the rate YBL. Now this message is received by C. C alters this message and say that my UPI ID is C at the rate YBL. So A will make the transaction in a wrong account, and they both will not even know that they have been, what you call as prey to a this man in the middle attack. So these are the this is quite, what you call as uh, common these days. Man in the middle attack with this lot of transactions is has become very common. Then compromised key attack is that somehow C manages to gain the access of private key of B and decodes his data and decodes his data. Now sniffing attack is also, very prevalent these days. It is basically the process of monitoring and capturing all the data packets which are passing through the network using packet sniffers, and this is used by defense also to, crack the communications, cross-border communications originating from the country to some vulnerable countries like Indian defense. They have entire department whose job is to crack the originating calls to the Gulf countries from India, and out of these million of conversations they keep listening, they track down the malicious conversation, decodes that conversation, and based on it they, inform IV or whatever to take the necessary attack. So same ways a sniffer attack goes on. It continuously monitors the network for the data packets, and these packet sniffers are used to monitor and administrator keep track of the data that is passing through the networks. And these packet sniffers or network protocol analyzers are used. So what happens is malicious attacker, they employ the use of these packet sniffing tools to capture the data of the network, and based on the based on the stealed information like credentials, usernames, passwords, keys, they what do you call as install the they remotely install the firmwares and malwares in the systems, following which n number of type of what do you call as thing can be done. Now is one common question that asked by people, that what is the difference between eavesdropping and man in the middle Same ways, they a lot of questions are being asked that well, I'm really grateful to have been teaching you people, because you are the most intelligent class which I have ever been teaching. Reason being, you guys are so intelligent that I till date received not more than one or two queries. So I'm really blessed and grateful to your guys for such a wonderful contribution you have made in upgrading my skills, and as you know everything about Internet of Things. So I'm really blessed to having you as my class. I owe this to you. So thanks a lot. So coming back, there are a lot of people they ask sniffing and snooping. I know that you so definitely will be knowing this thing, but then also as a part of a curriculum, I should be sharing this with you that in sniffing, attackers listen to the network's data and captures the data packet using packet sniffers and this protocol analyzers and all. In spoofing, the attacker steal the credential of the users and use them in the system as a legitimate user. It is something like that uh, A is communicating over a network channel to B. C has installed data packet analyzer and is listening to the conversation. On the contrary, in spoofing, on the contrary, in spoofing, what C does is C steals the credentials of A and using those credentials steal the information from the system, from the mailbox or whatever. So this is the basic difference between sniffing and snooping, what do you call as spoofing. Then there are application layer attacks. Application layer attacks are basically type of DDoS attack. Now DDoS attack, I hope you all might be knowing denial of service attack, and DDoS is like distributed denial of service. DDoS is distributed denial of service, and it is basically attempt to hamper the normal functioning of a targeted of a particular server. Now basically the attacker, they floods the network with unnecessary messages such that the system is overwhelmed, is flooded by these messages, and it is not able to respond to the legitimate users. They basically jam the entire traffic flowing over the network. So basically they this distributed itself means this attack, they achieve their efficiency by gaining access to multiple entities in the network. It can be computer systems, it can be sensors, it can be any number of other sort of smart devices which use the network resources for transmitting informations. So once exploited, they have substantial amount of machines. Then they what they do, they start uh, these compromised entities are called as bots, and these together multiple bots, they are called as botnets. So these networks, they consist of computers and other smart devices and IoT, which are basically compromised and are then infected by the malware. And because of this malware, the hacker gains the what you call as controlling ability to these smart systems. Once this multiple bots constitutes a botnet, once this botnet is created, then attacker, what they does is start sending instructions to every single bot present in the botnet from a remote site. Let's say that this is your what you call as server. These are n number of legitimate users which are connected to these bots. Then, and let's say this here is your hacker. he has access to this one, this one, this one, and this one. So what he starts doing is he sends instruction to all of them to send request messages to the what you call as server. These are like thousands, multiple thousands of messages which are sent to the server, so that server is, you know, overwhelmed by replying to these messages, whereas the other legitimate users, you know, they do not gain access to the network. And this entire thing, it is something like that, this is, let's say, a highway, and attacker gains access to or from some, entry points from it, and he actually, floods this entire highway with n number of things. Like farmers have flooded all the borders of Delhi once, at a point, with tractors and all, due to which traffic jam that was on the border, like from Delhi border, from Meerut side, it was jammed till Muzaffarnagar, around 100 kilometers of traffic jam. So because of these flooded tractors on the highway, the legitimate people, the common people, they had to suffer. So this is distributed, what you call as, denial of, this is distributed denial of services. Then password based attacks and, identity spoofing, these are other, common threats. And there are a lot of other threats that is available, like data and identity theft, like, every now and then, if you read newspaper, the, scary news of unpredictable hackers access the data, stole credentials from this type of massive news. Every now and then it is available in, not in newspapers, then over the internet. So we also, we are also, our own biggest security enemies, because, carelessness is our basic birthright. And making up strong passwords, we forget them, and we find it difficult to access our accounts. So we keep our passwords like, mm, name, उसके बाद, सुशांत @1991, है ना, अंजलि @1992. So these kind of things, and we access our, what you call as, mobile phones, and smartwatches, laptops by them. You will be surprised to know that there are kind of software available that can access a pool of 2.8 million passwords in 14 seconds. Like what? Someone tried to access your Gmail. You have put a small simple password like your date of birth and your name, Anuj @1990. So that software, within 2.8 millions passwords that would be made out of your credentials, your name, your birth date, and your, what you call as, number of any common thing that is quite personal to you, and will decode your Gmail within 10 seconds. So we ourselves are our biggest, what do you call as, enemies, and we really, despite of being, intelligent enough in computer science, engineering, and knowing what can happen because of loose passwords, we invite these malicious hackers and opportunistic people to come and look into our personal details saved in our smartwatches and smart gadgets. So the main basically idea behind the identity theft is to amass data, and with a little bit of patience, there is, pool of information which can be sold in millions to find. Now general data available on the internet is basically combined with the social media, Facebook, Insta, LinkedIn, and then your Twitter and all. Plus the data which is received from millions of smart watches belonging to people, then smart gadgets used by the fitness trackers, jogging gadgets, workout gadgets, then smart meters, smart fridges, washing machines, all these things which can, have access to your personal identity. Then the more details can be found about the user from, some more efforts in it. First idea was just a patience. We just keep on tracking the smart devices around you and will gather more information about you. Then using these information with slight effort, we will be able to crack down your passwords, which will give us entry to your smart gadgets. Once this things is known, I will pretend myself as, Anuj, and can do whatever with the Anuj's account. And this is, very common thing, because generally even if the, you call up a call center of the bank for any number of things, they generally ask two three kind of questions: date of birth, घर का address, and mother's maiden name. That's it. That's the primitive questions asked by any of the top banks in India. So, and I have access to all of these because of your stupidity, our stupidity, in fact. So these are the attacks which are quite specific to Internet of Things, and in view of this, the major concern that IoT with major concern with IoT assurance of privacy. How will how would the consumer data be used, and by whom it will be used? An environment where, this smart home is secure, smart office is secure, smart vehicle is secure, my all smart gadgets, they keep on sensing my data, that data is secure. Then, this raises a lot of concerns from consumers as well as the industries. And once after 2 3 years down the line, this conversation becomes autonomous, things would even be more vulnerable if this standardization of things, to be called as things in Internet of Things, is not done in near future. So there is lot to be done in field of privacy and security in Internet of Things, and this is quite a concern for entire world. That shall be all for today's module. Thank you.